Hey guys, welcome to another review in this absolutely sweltering heat that I'm in. And this is the last review, honestly, now of the day. And I find that I've had a bit of free time today in between other things. So I want to get as many videos bombed out as possible. Can't have done this many videos in one day ever, so I'm exhausted. But I want to carry on with Bentley Little and talk a bit more. So this is my third, I think, Bentley Little review. I'm going to talk about the next one I've picked up off the rack, which is The Bank, which came out in 2020, so a much later book by Bentley Little, and a book that I've got a lot of mixed feelings about. The previous two that I've talked about, The Summoning and The Mailman, I've liked both of those a lot. This one, less so. I don't think it's a bad book, but I'll be honest, I found this quite underwhelming. So the bank is effectively about a bank. It's another social satire. A new bank comes to town, replacing all the old banks, buying up all the old banks, and effectively taking control of people's lives as things do in Bentley Little novels. The main characters here, again, I've forgotten all the names. You've got a husband, a wife, and a son. They've got a bit of a fractured relationship, but they're quite likable characters here. And you've also got this point of view story from this character who's a sadistic serial killer who turns out to be one of this guy's son's friends. There are going to be spoilers here. Who then gets corrupted by the bank. Not sure why we had point of view perspectives of this guy doing awful things and then disappearing from the story entirely, but that's just what happens. It's just really weird. This one kind of retreads a lot of old ground from things like the policy, the association, even university, the academy. It retreads a lot of ground. It doesn't really have an awful lot to say here, and it feels like Bentley Little's kind of just got a bit bored at this point, at least writing this book. And he's just putting out another novel that just follows a similar story path to previous novels he's wrote, only way better in the past. It's got a few weird and creepy moments. I mean, Bentley Little is very good at making weird and creepy things happen. But for the most part, there's not a lot of tension in this book. There's not a lot of suspense. There's not a lot of creepy, scary stuff. In fact, it's never scary. Which is a big shame because most of his best books are, and you can tell when he's writing something you just don't feel the atmosphere. For me, I just didn't find there to be a lot of atmosphere to this. It's cleverly interjected in terms of the origin of the bank. The very start of the book takes place many, many years before, and it has this young black family who are rejected a bank loan basically because of the colour of their skin. And Ben Little's always been, I think, pretty good at trying to talk about racism, systemic racism in society, especially in America, and incorporate it in themes. He does it brilliantly in The Summoning. He does it really well in a couple of other books, but here it doesn't really have much of an impact on the story because ultimately it just boils down to people who are spurred, who do bad things, and it gets on top of them rather than looking at any sort of deep rooted reason, consequences for all that going on. It's also telling him that this is a book that I read earlier this year. I cannot remember the ending. I can remember certain parts of it, but for the life of me, I cannot remember how this book ended. And I didn't read it that long ago. And it really bothers me because even the worst endings that Bentley Little does, and they tend to be the worst part about what he puts out, are at least things I can remember because they're either so abrupt or so illogical or something. But this one, not a clue. Cannot remember how it ends at all. It's just completely gone. I can get up to a certain point where things start getting really silly, but then couldn't remember it. So I don't really have an awful lot to say about it. It's not the greatest review I know, but the whole point of these reviews was really just to put him on the limelight and to say whether I liked or disliked the books, and I could have just ended it there. I will end this review by saying that this is, for me, a disappointing Bentley Little book. It's nowhere near as enjoyable as many of his early ones are. I find a lot of his later books are disappointing, although there are some gems in there. I don't think this is going to rank very highly on the list. It's a very forgettable, by the numbers, Bentley Little book with a couple of flashes of the greatness. The bit with the shadow on the walls, you'll know it if you read it, that I enjoyed. But yeah, it's not one of my favourites. It's not one I particularly enjoy. And I don't really have an awful lot more to say about it. It's a Bentley little book that I find pretty below average, and as a result, I'm going to end my review by saying it's one I wouldn't recommend.